Hi, I'm Linda Mason, and thank you for inviting me back. Today, what I'm going to do is show you my portrait painting process, mainly for the children that I do. Okay, let's start. I'm working on a portrait at the moment. This is for a client in England, actually, and I've painted her three daughters. She has, fortunately for me, she has five daughters. And she has them painted when they're each 10 years old. So we have this daughter that is the fourth daughter. And normally when I do children, I do a series of photos with the child. I prefer that because it's a getting to know you process. And then, I often do, more than one. So I end up with, paintings that I can keep myself. For instance, over here we have a portrait I did a couple of years ago, and this is the one that I kept. The parents took another one, and the same thing. She had a sister. They were three sisters, so it was three portraits there. And here we have this beautiful young woman, and I have already completed one portrait, and this was I started two a little bit at the same time, and I'm going to show you my process. And this was the one that was the more messed up. It actually was another painting. I turned it round. It was the most difficult. So in that way, it enabled me to sort of get to know her and get back into the painting mode, because I hadn't been painting portrait. I'd been painting people, this series that I'm working on at the moment. And I actually did this one, and I started another one. Let me show you a little bit. The one I'm working on, these are messed up, but I did, as I said, a series of photos. Then I look at the photos and I choose the ones I prefer, where I feel that I've captured her the most. Or I choose a few and I'll work and mix a few, like the angle, the clothing, things like that. Here we have, I think I got a really great photograph of her. I've kept two of them because one we had the eyes, the other we have the lips, and then I can look at her. And like I said, this one is the finished portrait. I'll put that out of the way now that you've seen it. I work in a way, a very loose way. I'm not formally trained. I got into portraiture because of working on people's faces as a makeup artist many years ago, and experimenting and with that. And then I decided, when my daughter was little, I wanted to capture her. And I did these two portraits. These were the very first children's portraits that I did. And I thought, it's very different from having a photo. You really have something that's sort of timeless, that lasts, and it captures them a different way. It's not necessarily a perfect copy. It is more, as far as I'm concerned, a capturing of the essence of the child, in discovering something about the child that might come out in the future. I mean, I've had one little girl I did portraits of, and they were so totally different. And I think one, I made it, and I thought I made it cute and pretty and all of this. And the other one, I really did how I saw the child, which was a very strong, willed, child. And I took the two portraits in, and the parents looked at them, and the father said, "Oh my gosh, I love that one. I can see your whole family in it. Your mother, your father, everybody." And the mother was drawn to the cute one. And that's happened before. Sometimes I've had parents come to me and say, "Oh, I like that one." And sort of the portrait's more fantasy. And so I've done a portrait that was pretty fantasy, and then I felt like so strongly about something that presented the child in a different way. And this child had a strength and intelligence and all of this. And that's another little girl. When I had the Art of Beauty in Soho in New York, I had a sort of a gallery boutique. And so I could exhibit the pictures there. So that made it easy to people coming along the street. They could see it. And I had the portraits I was doing in there. And this woman, lived, in Soho. And so I had done the little portrait first because that's what I felt like I had to do. And then I was working on the bigger portrait, and the mother actually came by and she walked in and she saw this little portrait, and she was like, it was not at all what she'd asked me for. She took it away. So when I delivered the other painting, I went up in the elevator, and it's one of these elevators that opens into these, these Soho lofts in New York. You go straight into the apartment sometime, and I went straight into this loft space. There was this big white wall, nothing on the wall except this little portrait. I was so happy. It was just sitting there, and I felt, oh, it's okay. Because sometimes, of course, you don't know, you've got to see it in a different environment. And they actually took the two portraits. I'm back to this one. So this one I've started work on, and I thought when I start work, what I do is I usually, because that's from my background, I start with the base, like the foundation. I think about the skin color and what is the beauty in that particular skin. And she had a beautiful peaches and cream, this young fabulous peaches and cream complexion. I mean, like the most amazing skin, very, very, very much how you imagine the British beauty, the English beauty to be. I'm not going to mix too much, but I'll put the white, and then I have one color. Unfortunately, I'm using Liquitex. This is Light Portrait Pink, which they don't make anymore. I'm very, very unhappy about that. They have told me that this light pink is the same, but I don't know about that. I think it's slightly different. I mean, if you can see it, one is definitely the Light Portrait Pink is, look at that. There's a difference. Right. They try to tell me, so to get my Light Portrait Pink, which Liquitex don't make anymore, I'm going to have to mix stuff into that. So I like that already. I'm used to working with that. And then because I'll put a touch of a yellow. Where is light? I'm going to use light. I use light yellow or sometimes medium yellow. And then I'm not going to use too much. The yellow seems to make I think I have too much of the pink there for this amount of white. You'll see if you can just go, if you're trying to experiment yourself, you just go easily and see, I've got a light color there, a little darker, and a little yellow. Put a little yellow in there. Okay, so I'm going to leave it, I'm not putting any more in. I'm going to leave it that pale because I feel like I can always build up the color, adding the pink. And I think in makeup, I noticed that most women, went too dark. You almost could go lighter with your foundation, which brightens the skin. And so that's how I do my painting. I mean, obviously, if the skin's a different type of skin, if the skin is a black skin or something like that, then I'll start with a dark color and then add the light. But here I like to go in very light. So I've worked, like I said, I worked on this painting, about a week ago. So I haven't been at it, and I'm coming back to it afresh, and I'm thinking there's something wrong with the proportions. And that is like, okay, I mean, I'm going to have to move the eyes up to here, and how do I do that? Or the mouth down to here? Well, first of all, I thought there's something about the forehead that's not quite right. And then I looked at the painting, I looked at the photo, and I've got the angle wrong here. So that and that should be aligned, and they're not. But do I make this lighter and skin colored? Or that's what I thought of initially, you know, I'm going to go and then I'm looking, and actually this side I probably could go a little further in, slim it down so that it goes more, and not too much. If I go there, that's going to be too narrow. So let me just go in a little bit. I'll try to do it with one of my favorite colors, which also I've noticed they're changing and not making as much of, which is a bronze yellow. Because I just love the shade. That's why I use it. Bronze yellow. And let me get my brushes. I like using fairly big brushes. Like, for instance, I could go in with, these are small compared with these over here, you know. But, so let me go in here. Let me see here. Also, you see, I have the mouth here. Let's go in a little, let's make it a little rounder. And then go up here. I'm not going to go in closer than that, otherwise it'll be. So I'm going to have to take that back a little bit. I'm putting this here. And then I'll probably do the let me go around like that. And then let me get some of the skin tone here. And then I will eventually, I mightn't do that for you, but I'll go in a little darker here. That's just, I have to figure out how far in to go, and then before I put the black on, because the black, obviously the black or the brown, whichever I'm using, is a little more difficult. That's already better here. It makes it, and then maybe I think if you want to try to do a portrait of your child or anything like that, you have to think of what you know, and what the most important thing is to actually love the person that you're painting. I think that's the only way you can do a good portrait. And I think if you go into, say, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and you go into the portrait gallery, and you can really see who loved the subject they were painting. I think it's really, really important. So that's it, I think. And then you don't have to, I like to do the foundation first, because like I said, that's my background. But you don't have to. You think of what you like. You might want to look at your child's face and think, oh, it's a round face, and you start off with a circle. You do a circle, and then you work around that, and then you work it in. I think you just have to sort of go with the flow and manage to get past moments where you think, oh my God, what am I doing? It looks so ugly. It looks so wrong. You have to go with the flow. You can just do a quick lip, just do a quick eye. Of course, the classical way when you learn, it's the proportions, and if you prefer to sort of divide up the canvas, it might make it easier. I can't do that. I have done it. Sometimes I do go in with the ruler. Sometimes I do go in with this, you know, and think, oh yeah, well this is this width and this is, you know, the sort of the proportions. But it's not really me. I like to look at it, take a step back, think there's something wrong, something not right. With the eyes now too, you know, this part of the face seems a little short. It actually, you know, she does have a large forehead, but it doesn't seem quite right. So I'm also going to have to work on that. I've been like measuring a little like this with the brush and trying to figure out, you know, top of the nose to the middle of the lips, the middle of the lips to the chin, and doing the same on here. But it's actually not moving them up that much. It has something to do with the corner of the eye, which is too low. Also, this eye is slightly lower than this eye, but always eyes are different. But still, in this case, it definitely needs to be a little higher. But I think the main thing that I've done wrong here is, if you look, let me get the one that's got, if you look, so you look at is the white of the eyes. There isn't enough white here. And so I have to move it all here. So I can manage to lift that eye slightly, I think, through changing that, doing that correctly. So I'm going to go in with, a little white. Let me get a little more white. And see if I can. This is, you know, for people who are neat freaks, then this probably isn't the best way to go, but, but so let me go into the eye. See if I can manage to move over. I'm going to have to move over this and move up the eye. Move the point of the eye up on this one, and then on this one, because this one was probably in the best space. I'm going to work on trying to get this one looking right before I do the other one, because I think it was the better eye. This needs to be moved over totally, so I'm going to go over that a bit, and we'll. And then this one, I'm going to start underneath because it definitely needs lifting a little. So I'll try to get the corners right, and then I'm going to take away the brown I have there, lift it up. I think the thing is, it's usually going fraction by fraction, you know, often I go in and now looking at it and thinking now the proportions are right. So I'm going to work around that eye and this eye and try to move this eye up a bit. And also then obviously I might have to do something with the eyebrow. I mean, you know, all right, to lift that. I'm sort of happy with this area of the face. So I'm just going to lighten that area too. It's a little too pink for her, but that's, I'm not going to show you exactly everything because it's going to take too much time and I need to focus. I just wanted to give you an idea that all you need to do is to keep going. I had put the dress in, I had put the background in a little bit because I wanted to see, you know, the color of the skin next to the darker background, and then I'll actually complete the dress. And I think I'll make it pretty realistic, the dress. Sometimes I don't, as you can see in this painting. It depends. In this painting, I've done more of an abstract dress, an abstract background. Sometimes I do things that are, more realistic in there. Like, let me show you. What have I got over here? I've got a couple of smaller paintings too. I do the different sizes. This is an 18 by 18. This is an 18 by 18. This is an 18 by 24. These are all older portraits. What I'm working on now is a 24 by 36, because that's the size that I have done for this client and that she's requested. And over here we have a piece I'm working on, which isn't a commissioned portrait. It'll probably end up something like this one over there. But it's just to show you that I had put a flesh tone down, and then I worked with that color, my favorite color, gold. What's my favorite color? How can I remember? The bronze yellow. The bronze yellow. I have to call Vicatex and tell them that they might take it away, but it seems to be changing slightly. And then I have to figure out what else I want in there. So that's a sort of a painting, like I said, which is not a commissioned portrait, but I'm working with other materials I have. And how did I get started with the portrait? I believe I told you, with my daughter. I wanted to paint her, and then I fortunately had a workshop gallery in the city in New York where I could exhibit the paintings. I had my first portrait client had been a model that I worked with as a makeup artist in Paris, and Anne Bezamat-Cohen, and she came and she ordered a portrait she wanted of herself for her husband. And then she came and she ordered, after that portrait, obviously she liked it. Right. And I think it's still to this day, it's one of my best portraits. And then she ordered her 2 boys, and I painted her 2 children. And so I had portraits in my shop, and people would see them and they'd come in and commission a portrait. And I had, fortunately, I had neighbors, the Novogratz. I don't know who, they make the best furniture. It's sort of an IKEA type of furniture, but more stylish and easier to put together and more solid. Really beautiful. And I have some pieces in my home. And they were my neighbors. They were busy renovating this house that had been abandoned on the corner of Grand Street. And they came and they commissioned portraits. They had twins, Tallulah and Bellamy, and they had 2 boys at the time, Wolfie and Breaker, and they commissioned, it's a funny story. So I did that. They wanted quick. So I did the 2 girls, managed to get portraits that they loved until this day, thank goodness, because then they showed those 2 portraits, the 2 girls, people were filming them a lot and talking about them a lot because of the renovations they were doing, and then of course their furniture and their decoration, everything. So I got a lot of commissions from them. I was very lucky with that. But this funny story is, they also had me paint their 2 boys, and it was this quick, and 4 children, I don't know, just 10 days to do them in, not even. And I painted the boys, and the father took one look at them and he said, "They look like toads." And I looked at them, and I made them look like toads. So I took them back and tore them up. I destroyed them, but I think I might have kept a photograph. So maybe you can show them how I made them look like toads. So of course, I need to have the portraits around for a while. It's difficult to just do them and give them out, because I think it's finished, and then a few days later I go back and I think, oh, I'm a genius. I've done this in a day. I've done this in a few hours and all of this, and then I look at it the following day and think, what did you do? And then I have to, keep going. So I like to have a few weeks after that, a few weeks with this young lady. I've got more than a few weeks. I'm okay. I'll take her to England in October. So thank you. So I thank you for coming, and thank you for visiting my studio again, and I hope I see you again next year.